this is module 6. Okay, so first thing to note is that we have a storyboard. Shows a typical MBSE process. You can get it from this link, and it shows these main steps. So if you're new to MBSC, this is a good place to start, and certainly for customers, this helps them apply MBSC to their business. So we've mentioned that it's a multi-user tool, and that models, Windchill Modeler models, are in a shared database. There are access permissions at work here. It provides on-demand locking of data that is transparent to the user. So unlike in Windchill, there is no explicit checkout or check-in. It just happens as you modify data. There's no save function, as I mentioned earlier. We mentioned UML as a type of model, a very common type of model. It can be used to define behavior and structure of software. So let me show an example of that. So this. This is an example of a class diagram, and we're modeling a game. So it's like a Tetris game example, and each of the individual classes are their own separate box. And you see in this case, we have different operations defined. Initialize components. If I go to the body tab, you can see the actual code that gets run when this operation is invoked. This is C#, using C# in this code editor. And we see inheritance or hierarchy. We see relationships where we have connectivity. And we'd also see any properties that we have. This game should have some properties. So in this class example, or this one here, we see that we have a set of attributes, class, as well as lots of operations. And from this, you can generate software code. As you saw a moment ago, we actually do have, or we can put the body of our code in here. So when we generate code from it, the output resultant files are ready to be executed. They're not compiled, they need to be compiled, then executed, but they're complete source code files. Okay, so that's software modeling with UML, and that is still a very powerful, very beneficial feature for many customers that are doing software design. SysML focuses on system structure. So it looks at requirements, structure of the product. So it's less focused on software, more focused on the physical aspects. And it has parametrics. to give you equations, constraints, and calculations. Other types of modeling, variability, and we'll look at that in more detail. Modeling for IoT, for ThingWorx. UAF, we've mentioned, code synchronization, I've just explained a bit. And we have some general types of modeling: flowcharts, general graphics, text, and architecture. So here's an example of a simple text diagram. Show that in the tool. Okay, so here's a model with packages, use cases, class diagrams. At the bottom here, we have a text diagram. See the type. If I open this, it's a basic text, rich text file item that can be stored inside the model. Change 1, 2, 3, then click save, and it's stored inside the model as a rich text element. Okay. Creating model items and relationships. So in the package browser, and in fact in most browsers, we have a context menu. So the right-click menu. And from there, we can go and create diagrams, elements. So if I start at the root node, right at the root of the model, I can go new package, create a sub package, and then in there, create a diagram. Case diagram in this case. I'll create an avatar. So you can use the context menu as shown there. You can also use this tool that we've got called the creator. So this allows you to create multiple items in one operation. Demonstrate that. This context menu can be quite big. So this tool called the creator is a bit easier to work with. So let's create a class diagram. Type in a filter, view classes. I don't have SysML in the model. There we go. Okay. Create some profile entities. Script. Type definition. Activity and a signal. Click on create. And it creates all of those activities, all of those elements in one operation. And if there's a diagram open that's relevant, so let me create some use cases. We can choose to add these to the current diagram. So it created 3 new use cases in one operation and added them to the diagram. So that's another way that we can create models. I showed a moment ago the properties pane. So you can specify the properties of the item, define description, then any other property values. I'll go back to Modeler, open up another model. So this is a model with sysml in there. So we have some requirements inside here. Let me don't have much text in them, but you can add descriptive information inside here to explain the requirement, explain the use case. But these had some descriptions in them. Okay, so that's the properties pane. We looked at creating packages a moment ago. So this is used to decompose the model and manage access permissions. I go back to Modeler quickly. I select a package, use this one. And in the properties pane, the package has been selected. I go to access permissions. This is where we can define access permissions. Specify a user or a group and then give them the permissions that they have. So access permissions defined at different levels, but they can be a package. So the package hierarchy might represent phases of a project, types of modeling, systems and subsystems, or ownership and access. So you can structure the model in different ways. You can also create models using diagrams. And I gave a demonstration of this a moment ago, but let's take another look. Okay, I'm going to create a new package in there. Create a new sysml block diagram. Border a little bigger. So I can use the toolbar to add an item. And then I can create a connection, generalization in this case. Or we can use the quick create capability. So this allows us to create a link, and create a relationship directly on the diagram. So if we hover over, we see this add. And this is a nicer way to create models, to actually create them in position where you want them. So creating with diagrams is a nice way to work. I showed a moment ago that you can drag an item onto the diagram. Just demonstrate something as well. When we create items on a diagram here, we also see them in the package browser. Diagram is just a view of the model. So the items that we added via here will get created as well. If we delete this item, it doesn't actually delete from the model. We have another function that deletes from the model. If we do delete on a diagram, it deletes the diagram symbol. So this is block 4. The symbol has gone, but the actual model element exists still. I can bring it back on if I wish to. If I choose delete from model, then it deletes the symbol and it will delete the actual item. There we see block 4 is now gone as well. So the diagram is a representation of the model. It may not show all of the information on the model. We use diagrams to explain the model and to understand the behavior of the system. So the diagram is there as a communication tool mainly. The actual model is defined really, or is visible through the package browser. Okay. So I mentioned a moment ago using Quick Create alignment guides. That's quite good. I'll show that. When you move things around, we see we have those red lines for alignment. We also have we've moved things around, bear with me. It's there, of course it is. We also have a function called auto layout. And this will lay out the diagram automatically. I'm not going to do it at this point, but that's a nice feature that we have as well. Okay, here's a demonstration. I think I've created enough information, so I won't go through that demonstration. Diagrams have options. You can choose what gets displayed on diagram. So you can choose different properties and the visual settings. So you can change the color, symbol, for example. And you can choose which properties and relationships are visible. You can perform some multi-item actions. So multiple select and perform some actions there. We had a look at rich text features as well. And we had a little look at the code editor. So when we're working with UML models and classes, we can look at the code defined inside. Modeler can also generate tables like this and matrices that show relationships. So when you could show the requirements mapping to use cases or to the logical structure, so you can see that traceability from requirements to the design implementation. I mentioned some of these already. We have a favorites function, so you can mark items, add them to the favorites, and then you can see them in a dedicated tab. This is another product that we have called Asset Library. And this allows you to package up parts of a model and bring them into Asset Library so they can be reused by other systems. So it uses the notion of a reusable asset. And the idea is to help with systems of systems and reuse of modules. Okay, there's an exercise here that I don't think we will go through. We do have an MBSE tutorial. So this is quite a large document that goes through click by click, how you can go through the different stages of an MBSE process.